From Topps comes the all-new digital card collecting app, free to download from iTunes or Google Play. Star Wars Card Trader.
For the first time ever, collect and trade everything from legendary 1977 Star Wars cards to new cards featuring exclusive content from Star Wars Episode 7, The Force Awakens.
All from the comfort of your mobile devices. Star Wars Card Trader.
These are the cards you're looking for.
Listening to Coffee with Kenobi, you are, with Dan Z and Corey Clubb, the podcast you're looking for. This is, yes.
For an entire generation, people have experienced Star Wars the only way it's been possible, on the TV screen. But if you've only seen it this way, you haven't seen it at all.
This is the podcast you're looking for.
We've been waiting for you.
The Force is strong here, even stronger than the coffee.
At last! Where have you been?
Welcome to Coffee with Kenobi. Here are your hosts, Dan Z and Corey Clubb.
Hello and welcome to show number 50 of Coffee with Kenobi, a Star Wars podcast that analyzes our favorite saga in a whole new way. With me is my good friend and co-host Corey Clubb, and we are here to proudly introduce our official review of The Force Awakens, and we've got quite a show for you today, don't we, Corey?
We sure do, and it's so fun because as we got to see it, the first time together, second time I had to take my children, you could take some of your friends and family, and the third time, obviously, with our friends and family as well, and more people who hadn't seen it, just experienced it for numerous times. It'd be fun to dig into some of these questions with our good friends and co-hosts across the Coffee with Kenobi family, and be able to just answer some deep, long questions that we kind of maybe have been ruminating about and thinking about through our viewings.
Yeah, and we've both seen it 3 times. First time you and I and everybody saw it together, our kids and family and people we work with. And then my second trip was I saw with my wife. We were in Las Vegas, and she was awesome enough to want to go and when we were in Vegas. So that was an incredible time. And then my last showing, I went with my brother again, and I took my mom, which was cool because that was sort of full circle because she took us to all of the others, and she's the reason why I'm such a big Star Wars fan anyway, for everything, just like Jeff's mom, all the enabling that went on. Thank goodness. What were your second and third showings with? Yeah,
so I took, we went together, obviously, the first showing together with you and some good friends and families of ours. And then the second showing, I took my kids to the giant screen in theater for their first showing of it, and they loved it, enjoyed it. It was so much cool to see their faces glow, and I actually had a hard time pulling away from the screen to look at their faces where certain things happened, and it was cool to see that. But
that must have been great.
It was fun. They just really enjoyed it. It was a fun film for them, and to see their youthful energy was wonderful. So, and then a third time, my parents went and saw it. My brother was in town from Denver. So we all just grouped together and went out and checked it out, and then obviously talked about it almost for over an hour afterwards, analyzing everything. And I got to twist in my Coffee with Kenobi analyzation glasses, if you will. So it was cool.
That is cool. That's cool. So what you're about to hear is our big show with Randy and Luke from Legends Library, Matt and Jeff from Comics with Kenobi, and Aaron from Rebels Reactions. And we've got some exciting things coming in 2016 with Coffee with Kenobi. There's some minor changes to how we're going to be doing things, but you're still going to get the same degree of analysis and conversation that you've always gotten. And we're even adding more to our shows as well. But let's talk a little bit about what we're doing with our specific show. I mean, for one thing, we're taking the month of January off. You're still going to have Legends Library and Rebels Reactions if there's a new Rebels episode, and Comics with Kenobi, in addition to one major news show, which we're going to talk about very, very soon. But our main show is going to come back in February, and we're actually switching the main show to just monthly instead of every other week. Now, Corey, why are we doing that?
We're busy fellows.
That's right.
Yeah, 2015 was kind of an evolving year for us. Just obviously, I was going back to school, making some different plans for my future employment and whatnot. And of course, 2016 just boosts it even more. Obviously, just being just busy. I think 2016 is going to be a wonderful year for Coffee with Kenobi, and being able to analyze The Force Awakens. Obviously, we can do that probably all year if we wanted to. But just I think just make more room for other things that we have planned for other shows, and just kind of lighten the load for us a little bit for month to month. And who knows, I'm sure we'll do some interviews and here and there and get some things exciting for around some May the 4th and other events such as that as they come available. But just lighten the load for us a little bit and making it a little easier on us.
Yeah, definitely. We want to keep flying the Falcon with all of you because it's such an amazing time. We have so much fun with the discussion, the analysis, and the rhetoric. But it just helps us to kind of take a step back and refocus. The Force Awakens was great. And I think you'll notice, family and friends of our show that have been listening for as long as you have, a lot of people after The Force Awakens, especially if they were heavily involved in Star Wars, they took a bit of a step back because it was such an intense road. Think of Santa Claus and all the work he has to do to get ready for Christmas. We had our Christmas Eve and it was great, but we're ready to take a bit of a break. And there's no danger of Coffee with Kenobi going away. It's I love this show. This has done so much for us and it's evolved so much with Corey and I's friendship, and it's just been so much fun. But it's just going to be something where we take a bit of a step back and refocus, and we're going to bring it. By the time we pick up those mics in February, look out, because we're going to be ready to dissect Star Wars in ways we haven't before, and we're very excited about that. So, Corey, one thing we didn't really talk about on our show that you're about to listen to is we didn't really talk about how you rank this film. I mean, it's sort of a silly question, but I mean, people, you can't help but think of it, so we may as well just throw it out there. Where do you rank this film with the existing 6 films?
It's interesting because I've thought about that a lot. And of course, as a Star Wars fan, you do want to rank it in your own personal categories and which one is the best and which one's better than the other and such. I think Force Awakens is a different film. For me, it's different because it's difficult to compare to the past films. The film's themes are similar, but we shouldn't compare them, I don't think, to our favorites. But I think we should look more to how they enhance each other. It's hard for me. This is just my personal thoughts. I'm really thinking.
It sounds like you're not going to answer it.
No, I'm going to answer it. But I honestly really love this film. But I was like, do I like it more than Empire? Do I like it more than New Hope? Because those are the top 2 for me. I can say in this moment right now that it's better than it's better than Empire for me. So it goes A New Hope or Force Awakens.
Wow.
And I don't know why that is, but I've enjoyed it so much because I've got to enjoy it with my kids, and I think it's making new memories for me is the biggest plus. And I think I'm going to remember this for the rest of my life.
That's so cool, dude.
Well,
really
I didn't.
Feel that way.
Well, I just really put it in the context of I didn't see New Hope in theaters. I didn't see Empire in theaters. I didn't really see Return of the Jedi in theaters. So I can't say that's the memory that's the biggest, because everybody looks back at their memories and then I can look from a film standpoint, but that's not what I want to. We're not talking about that. It's more of a favorite thing. It just brings out so much enhancement from the other past films. Obviously, it plays off a lot of the themes, the characters, a lot of good jokes, a lot of good dialogue, and it just plays up so much of that it evokes so much from A New Hope. Just meeting these characters and enjoying the film as a space-funded odyssey that just knock your socks off, and that's what it did for me. So I think that's how I'm going to rank it. My number 2 right now.
Wow, I'm really happy to hear that. Now, did you think you'd feel that way after you saw it the first time?
No, I had a hard time afterwards, and I haven't expressed this to you, or maybe we did in our quick review afterwards, but I felt kind of sick afterwards, and I don't know if that was just because
literally
the
sick?
3D, like I had kind of a headache, and that's before that's after I got home. We talked to my wife a little bit, and I think it was so much coming off of a 2-year following of the film so closely and analyzing everything up to the premiere, and it was just like, oh my gosh, I just don't know how I feel about this. And of course, like you mentioned as well, seeing it a second time, it was so much better. I thought, okay, I can just enjoy it now as a fan. I felt like I was going in with so many thoughts and who's who and what's going to happen, and it's just like the anticipation level was so large for me, and I get this way for when we go out to, a theme park or something, I get excited, I get anticipation so high until, we're in there for a while and I kind of come down off that cloud, But, obviously after seeing it a couple of times, I just really found that I enjoy it so much. The characters so much. I thought they were written well. I enjoyed the new characters and the old characters and getting to see them in action on the film, on the screen there.
Right. Wow.
Yeah. Heavy.
No, it is. That's what I would expect. For me,
yeah.
Where do you think I rank it?
To me, whenever I think of you, I think you're a really classic, original trilogy fan. So a lot of stuff you collect are stuff that's pure to your heart. And I feel like, you grew up with it. You saw it, the drive-in. So those movies will never be replaceable, and that's why I think that a lot of fans, even older fans, have a hard time putting this into this category and being able to rank it. It's because it's not their Star Wars, and it's
true.
I don't know. For me to suggest to you to say it's better than, Empire or Star Wars, you just can't. It's like saying it's better than my favorite film. Well, it's not. It's not there. It's not it. It's not it. I can't say it's better than my favorite film, but I can rank it on a personal level. But for you, I think it's number 4 for you.
You know me very well. That's and all your reasons are right. Yeah, I mean I love it. It's wonderful. I keep saying it doesn't feel like Star Wars, but it does feel like Star Wars because it's just the hardest thing I had experiencing this movie for the first time was knowing the main thing because someone spoiled it for us. For me, and then realizing that I wasn't experiencing this movie as I did when I was 7 or when I was 9 or when I was 11 or 12. And I had to sort of grow up and get over that and get over myself and just enjoy that this is now how Star Wars is, whether I like it or not. And I love it. And I've seen it 3 times and I know I'm going to see it again because it's wonderful. When I see that opening crawl, I get goosebumps and emotional. Like I smile like I'm the Joker because I'm just so happy. You know what I mean? It takes me back to an amazing place, but also makes me realize I'm different now. I have kids and I'm married and I have more of a disposable income than I could afford to buy these collectibles and things like that. It's just, and we have our show on StarWars.com and lots of stuff. So it's just different, but I do rank it below Return of the Jedi and above the prequels. And this isn't prequel bashing. I still love the prequels, but it's very deep. It's very profound. Kylo Ren is compelling, and a lot of the reasons you're going to hear in our dissection, which is coming up real soon, you're going to see more of why we like it, and we're going to have a lot of time to talk about this movie and a lot of specific things in the movie. But I definitely rank it there. I'm so moved by the fact, and your kids are younger than mine. I mean, I have one very young child and 2 that are older, and your kids are in between them, and they're like at a perfect age. I think at the age that you and I were when we fell in love with Star Wars when we were younger. So you getting to experience it like that is pretty remarkable. I get to talk about it with my older kids in different sort of ways that are analytical, but it's just different because they're not Star Wars fans like I am. But a lot of people aren't silly enough to sit down and jabber on a podcast like you and I do. You know what I mean? And it's so fun. I've had so much fun with you. We've talked about this a lot and breaking down the movie, but it's a magical experience that I'm still coming to grips with, and look forward to talking about it and writing about it. Gosh, I've on the way home from Vegas, I wrote probably 3 different articles for different periodicals about this movie. So it's going to be fun. It's going to be fun to break it down and to hear what other people have to say. So without further ado, unless Corey has something else to add, we'll jump into our full analysis.
Yeah, we'll add. I would look at putting my written review out after the first of the year, just because I wanted to take the time to see it a couple times and I just let my thoughts come together and also discuss it here on the show first. So be on the lookout for that.
Luke, you're going to find that many of the truths we cling to depend greatly on our own point of view.
I must be allowed to speak.
You've taken your first step into a larger world.
On this very special Coffee with Kenobi, our 50th show, we're going to do the Force Awakens review. And what a review it's going to be. We've got our entire cast of Coffee with Kenobi here, and I'll go ahead and introduce everyone. No stranger to Coffee with Kenobi listeners, my co-host and good friend, Corey Clubb.
Hello there.
Hey. Following Corey are Jeff McGee and Matt Moore of Comics with Kenobi. Hello, gentlemen.
Hello. Hey. Thanks for having us.
You bet. Randy Therio and Luke Seiters of Legends Library are also joining us.
Hey, guys.
Yep. Hey.
Hey, was that a yub? Is that what you said?
Yeah.
Attaboy. And then we have Aaron Harris, who's just recently taken over Rebels Reactions. Welcome, Aaron.
Hello. Good to be here.
Yes, and I'm Dan Z, and I also do Coffee with Kenobi with Corey. How about that? So, guys, let's just jump right in as we've waited 32 years for this movie. What an amazing experience it was. So, if we can, let's first look at our overall opinions, overall reactions to The Force Awakens. Corey, we'll start with you.
Sure, yeah. The Force Awakens, like I said, we've been waiting a long time. It's a lot to take on, I think. I think Dan and I were waiting a long time just to get in the theater. We were recording live there, had some difficulties, but building up to it the last 2 years, it's been quite a journey. And to see it in theaters for the first time, it was a lot to take in, I think, for myself. Just to, you want to see everything, you want to hear everything, able to see all the characters and see what they've been, and get to know the story, get to know the new characters that we've learned so far. And overall, I was just really pleased with the end as the credits were rolling and stuff. I just felt happy. I felt excited. I felt Star Wars. I felt like they really captured the new characters, but yet really tied in the old characters and kind of brought us up to speed really, really well. Just kind of where everybody's at and what's going on in the saga and in the galaxy here. I was a little apprehensive, I think, as some of the new characters got introduced. I felt like I don't know if I'll like them or not, and things like that. But I felt like the chemistry was really well done. The dialogue was well done. I thought special effects were really well done too. I think it was handled well as far as making sure that they, varied the, really classic effects as far as practical stuff as well as, brand new special effects that look great on screen. So, the whole team, the whole crew, all the actors, everything did a great job. I was pleased. And I'm excited to see where it goes. It just left so many questions and open advantages as far as the next three films and seeing where all these new characters heading into the next films. I don't know. I've seen it 3 times now. And it was nice to see with other folks too. I think it's one of those films that I could go back and see other things the second and third time, but yet enjoy it with my kids and my family members and my friends. And just be able to look at them and watch their reactions to some of the scenes that came up and get their reactions. That was a lot of fun for me. And then I've just thinking over it last few days here and just getting excited about it and feeling that my heart pound as far as I want to know more about these characters. I want to see where they go. And I'm excited to see where this franchise is moving on to next.
All right. Well, Jeff, what about you?
I have tickets to see it this weekend. Didn't quite make it out yet, so come back to me. I'll have an answer for you at the end. No, I'm kidding. I saw it at the Alamo Drafthouse in Richardson Thursday night at 7 p.m. and then went again the next afternoon to see it in IMAX 3D. And loved the film. It was, I think I said this on Facebook, it was exactly what I was hoping for. It was no more, no less. So I guess you could say I was whelmed, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. I really enjoyed the story, loved the new characters, would have liked to have seen more of Luke. And I'm assuming we're okay to talk spoilers, right?
Yeah.
There's no way.
Right.
There's no way to talk about my reaction without. So
right. Yeah. And we'll just put a caveat at the beginning. Hey, there are going to be spoilers. You need to probably see the movie before you listen to this show.
If you haven't seen it yet, why are you listening to a Star Wars podcast? Mm-hmm. When everybody knows Han Solo is my man. He's my favorite character of any sort of fiction, book, film, music, literature, anything. So when he got bladed, I had my girlfriend and her daughter were sitting on either side of me. And as soon as that happened, I just froze and I could feel both of their heads just whip around to stare at me in my periphery. And after about 2 minutes, my girlfriend leaned over and she said, "Are you okay?" And I said, "I will be. Just watch the movie." So I wasn't really able to form a really strong opinion of it after that first viewing because I was just so taken aback. Everybody said they saw it coming. I did not see it coming, mainly because I didn't want to. But when I saw it the next day, enjoyed it a lot more. I was able to just sort of take it in since I knew what was going to happen. I was able to just go along for the ride and just really loved it. And I must say, I'm not a fan of post-conversion 3D, but this is the best post-conversion job I've seen. And there was one shot where it cuts to a Star Destroyer, and the Star Destroyer is sticking out in the audience, and it held just long enough that everybody in the theater went, ooh. But only one guy reached up to try to touch it. So that was, going in, I just wanted a good movie because, we try not to hate on the prequels here, and I'm not hating on them, but they didn't feel like Star Wars to me. This felt like Star Wars. For all its flaws, for all its faults, I do have some complaints, but nothing major. But the main thing is it just felt like Star Wars, and that's all I wanted.
Well, good. And at the end, we will have some things we'll point out that we maybe weren't as thrilled about, which, it's normal. None of us here is a sycophant. Matt, let's turn to you. What were your overall opinions of The Force Awakens?
Well, I really thought that Tina Fey and Amy Poehler did a believable job as siblings.
You went to the wrong theater,
and the chipmunks were so funny.
They said it couldn't be done.
So that wasn't Philly? Oh, my. I'll be back. No. I was dutifully impressed, and I went in with a lot of high hopes because, as Dan said, I was waiting 32 years for a sequel to Return of the Jedi, and I got the sequel that I wanted. This film was perfect. It was a nice blend of nostalgia, yet moved the franchise forward. It paid homage to all 6 previous films I found in very nice little touching ways that the fans could really get around and enjoy, but without alienating people who may not be deep into Star Wars like, say, we are, or even the casual Star Wars fan. This film had it all. And I have to admit, I was not surprised with what happened to Han, because I figured there was a reason Harrison Ford was being so jocular and full of good cheer doing his press junkets ahead of the film, because it was very clear to me that he didn't have to deal with him anymore. But I thought it was handled very nicely. And I have to admit, I was a little puzzled about one aspect about the reveal coming so soon about Kylo Ren being Ben Solo and the child of Han and Leia. But, it worked. It rolled with it. And this new generation is just astounding. And these are characters, and of course I'm referring to Finn and Rey and Poe. These are characters that are going to really do a fine job as we branch out into this next generation of Star Wars, and more importantly, this next generation of the Skywalker family. And I'm really excited about what's going to happen with Episode 8. The only thing that I would feel bad about is Rian Johnson watching this movie just make fistfuls of money. And I'm thinking, I wonder if he's going, well, gosh, how am I going to top that? And I know this. There's a big chance that come this weekend, by New Year's, or I guess by January 4th, the first Monday of 2016, this film may have made more than Avatar.
Yeah.
And it's going to keep on going and rumbling. And look, it was perfect. I thought, it's like Jeff said, there were some flaws, but they were minor, and I'm not going to let them detract. This film was great for everybody.
Wonderful. Randy, now it's up to you, my friend. What did you think, overall opinions of The Force Awakens?
Well, I don't know about you guys, but I think because at the beginning it didn't feel, I know besides the scroll, the rolling kind of intro or whatever, I didn't feel like it was it didn't feel Star Warsy. And I don't think it was because it was not Star Warsy. I felt like because I was so unfamiliar. I've never seen this before, and I'm just so used to being familiar with Star Wars movies and lines and scenes and background characters, and so it was almost like it was so surreal and like out of body feel. I couldn't believe I was watching Star Wars. I couldn't believe that I was sitting there with like all my friends and family and so it was so weird and so strange, such a strange feeling to be looking at brand new material that I have nothing about. And so it wasn't until Poe Dameron says, "Do you talk first? Or do I talk first?" That
I loved that.
That was so cool. So that's when I kind of took a breath actually and let myself laugh and just kind of settle in. It was kind of like that comic relief that you needed. It was so appropriate or poignant just to have that that breath. And it was off to the races from there. I love the movie. Of course, there are some criticisms I have, which we'll talk about a little bit later. But I was waiting I couldn't wait to see the face of Snoke. I'm like, if that's immune and that's Plagueis, I'm going to lose my mind. And we had talked about this on our last conversation, Dan and Corey, and about if there is a Legends character that makes it into this movie, those of us that are Legends fans we're going to lose our minds. And I thought, okay, I'm going to see. I hear his voice. I just want to see his face, and I saw his face, and it wasn't immune. And about 30, and I was like disappointed because I really wanted it to be Plagueis. And so about 30 seconds after that, after the disappointment kind of wore off, I'm like, but the book isn't canon. Maybe it's still Plagueis. It doesn't have to be immune for it to be Plagueis. So I went through all of that emotion, and then
hey, it's Dan Z
and Corey Club
from Coffee with Kenobi, and we are excited to let you know about the Star Wars card trader app from Topps.
Yeah, Dan, you remember those cards that came out in 1977, the good old days? Well, they're back again. Yeah, so it's the Star Wars card trader app. It has them all, as well as fantastic images from The Force Awakens, The Clone Wars, Rebels, and much more.
Absolutely. You've got your favorite characters, memorable scenes, you've got key moments. It's all there. You get credits every day for free from the app, which is available from iTunes or Google Play. Open packs from the cantina, trade with your friends, and enjoy these amazing Star Wars memories as you take your first step into a larger world.
There's so many different sets to choose from also, and there's so many great cards to chase. There's special inserts, there's rewards for completing sets and variants. It's everything you love in collecting from a galaxy far, far away.
The Star Wars digital card trader collecting app from Topps.
These are the cards you're looking for.
So I know this might be totally upsetting for you, Jeff, but I was super relieved when Han Solo died. And I know that there's probably a lot of Han Solo fans out there that are hearing those words and ready to jump through their iPhones and punch me in the face. But the reason for it is because I know that this is what Harrison Ford wanted the whole time. I know that he thought his character was his character arc was complete at the end of A New Hope. And it was always hard work to try to get him back in and buy into the next episode, So to know that Harrison Ford got his wish and that Han Solo was kind of taken out of the mix and he died valiantly and with much drama, and also I thought that it's going to bring legitimacy to the rest of the trilogy. If you have the courage and the guts to take one of the main characters and basically kill off one of the main characters in the future, when we're looking at Leia or Chewie or Han Solo or the new characters, Finn or Rey, and they're in peril, their life is in danger, there's always that threat now. There's an honest threat now that one of those main characters is going to be basically killed. And I feel like that totally adds tension and drama to the rest of the trilogy because we have no idea who's going to survive this trilogy. And if they're willing to kill Han Solo, then they're willing to kill anybody. And I'm wondering if there's financial things as well. Was there financial things involved, like to have Mark Hamill and Harrison Ford, for this? Did they pay Mark Hamill for a cameo, and then they gave the extra funds to try to get Harrison Ford on board with this movie? I have no idea, but
I can chime in on this one.
Yeah.
Harrison Ford got paid between $30 and $35 million for this, plus 0.5% of the gross.
Oh, gracious!
No wonder he's so jocular and all of his interviews.
That's a little walking around money for him, though.
Yeah, Carrie Fisher. From what I understand, Carrie Fisher's contract was for $2 million. So,
but the screen time's a lot different too. And Mark Hamill got a Happy Meal.
Well, like I said, the last time I played a role like Mark Hamill's, I got $8 an hour and no credit as an extra. So,
well, I do think you have to consider one other aspect about Esther. One, as Randy said, I mean, Harrison Ford made no bones about it that he thought Han should have died in Return of the Jedi. But I have to wonder if another thing that's coming into play in all this is the fact that Lucasfilm is going to gear up for Indiana Jones 5, and Spielberg has made it very clear that he wants Harrison Ford in Indy 5. No, I know somewhere, halfway around the world, Ed Dallas just pumped his fist for no apparent reason.
Yes, as did I.
I mean, it's obviously this clears the path for them to get the fifth Indy film done, which I think is great. And who knows? There's always the chance that Han's body was never recovered at all. It could be that Hux has gone to collect Kylo Ren and collected his dad at the same time, and boy, episode 8 opens up with Han in a bacta tank, and we get another chance to have it skewered again.
It could happen. So let's we are only halfway through question 1, and we have 7 more. So at this rate, we'll be done when episode 8 comes out, which is exciting. It'll give you something to enjoy in the wait. So, Luke, let's turn to you quickly and see your overall opinions of The Force Awakens.
Well, mine kind of changed, and I think I ran into the same issue that a few of you ran into, where I'm sitting there in the movie theater, and then I see the Lucasfilm, and I almost wonder if not seeing the 20th Century Fox thing kind of screwed me up, too. Because then, shows a long time ago, and then the music starts, and I feel like there was something missing. And I think I tried so hard when I saw it the first time to try to catch everything. I didn't want to miss anything. I'm trying to take it all in, that I put a lot of pressure on myself, and I didn't really enjoy it as much as I thought I would. I obviously didn't. When Han died, I was just in shock, and then I realized by the time I got home, I was just like angry for no apparent reason. But then I went a couple of days later, and I just kind of sat back. I knew everything that was going to happen, and I really enjoyed the movie. Besides the fact that right before Han walked out on that balcony, I started to get a little nauseous. But besides that, I really thought it was a great movie. I started to like Kylo Ren's character a lot more. After the first time, I kind of thought he wasn't as big of a bad guy like Darth Vader was, and he doesn't hold the same power and Maleficent. I don't know. He's just not the same person. But then after I see it the second time, I see more of almost a psychotic villain, and I see what everybody else is raving about, how he's a villain that's struggling with the light and the dark and all that. So I enjoyed it a lot more the second time, and I want to try seeing it in 3D to see if I can get different perspectives. But I also feel like after going that second time, there's lots of things I didn't catch. I don't know. It was definitely, I agree, the best movie since Return of the Jedi to me. So that's my quick opinion.
Fair enough. Well, the newest member of our Coffee with Kenobi team, Aaron Harris, what did you think, my friend?
Well, I actually have had the opportunity to see the movie once. I saw it Thursday, 9 p.m. Thursday night, the week it opened. And I actually was mixed about it. Overall, I would say I enjoyed the movie. I really did like it. There were some things I did have issue with. It was a lot more fast-paced than any other Star Wars movie to date. Which is obvious because if you've seen anything else J.J. Abrams has done, he's very fast-paced in his movies. And there was something in it, and I never could, and I've sat back and I've tried to analyze it scene by scene in my head, trying to figure out what it was. There was something about it that just didn't feel Star Wars-y to me. I'm not sure what it was. I still love the movie, and it has the cast was phenomenal. I love the cast. They did a great job, and I loved seeing Luke there at the end. I cried when Han got run through. I mean, it was. I was applauding when the scroll started there at the beginning. I mean, it took me on a roller coaster of emotions, but at the end of it, there was just something about the movie. When I look back at the other original 6, the prequels and the original trilogy, when I look back at those and look at Force Awakens, there was just something about it that was just almost didn't make it feel like it fit in with those original 6. But overall, I still thoroughly enjoyed the movie, and I can't wait to see where we're going with these characters and what the future holds for them.
Sure. Well, I'm very happy that we're doing this show for a lot of reasons. The fact that we even have a show to talk about is clearly the main crux of this. But the fact that all of you have such differentiated opinions that are all very sound, and you have reasons to back them up. I'm noticing that a lot of people are getting a lot of flack online for maybe not thinking this movie is the greatest thing to ever happen to the history of creation. And it's okay that it doesn't. I mean, that's more than okay. I think it's fair. I think a lot of us, Matt said it was a perfect movie. I'm so happy to hear that you feel that way. And the first time I saw it, and I complained very loudly to some people about this, I knew
me.
Yes, of course to you. You're a given, man. That's part of the package of being the co-host. No, and it wasn't even near as much to you as it was to my wife. Trust me.
Yeah, I'm so glad that we didn't have to hear that part of it, Corey.
I'm glad I'm not his wife. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I am too. Okay. So this got weird. Let's get back to business. No, it's I found out who Kylo Ren's father was and what happened to Han Solo by one post that someone put on our Facebook. No. And that happened to me. And you guys know as well or better than anyone how fervently I have avoided spoilers for this film. I have avoided spoilers for Christmas, for crying out loud, for anything. I was pretty heartbroken, and I had a hard time with it, and I think it did jade my first viewing of the film. That being said, when it started, Corey was on my right, my brother was on my left. I had tears coming down my face when I saw the scroll. I do agree that the 20th Century Fox thing kind of threw me a little bit at first, but it just sort of jumped in. And when I saw the first sentence that Luke Skywalker has vanished, I was very in. I was very dialed in. I was very moved. There are a number of things that I took some umbrage with, but now I've now seen it 3 times, and every time I see it, I smile more and more. I think it's a wonderful film. I wrote quite detailed in my review on Coffee with Kenobi about it, and I think the thing for me that as Han is killed, so was my belief that I could experience these films as I did at 7, 11, and 12, 7, 11, and 13. And I had to come to peace with that and realize this is new. This is Star Wars 2.0. There are parts of it that don't feel like Star Wars, but it's still Star Wars, and this is Star Wars we were getting. And the quality, the cast, the script, the visuals, it's a beautiful film. It's very strong. I'm so happy that my little boy is growing up with this as his Star Wars, because this thing is huge, as Matt said. This thing is going to pass Avatar very quickly, and Jeff. And look out. I mean, there's so many things to pick out, and I'm sure we'll over the next couple of years. And for my comments, I'm not interested in who might be related to who in the future or what's going to happen. I waited 32 years for this movie, so I'm going to deal with what is, because I think there's so much that we can look at. And now, before we move on and go back up, I do know that Mr. McGee, your time is very short. You've got a lot of stuff going on, and you've been so awesome. I think we can agree that Jeff and Lisa are probably the MVPs of Coffee with Kenobi this year. Jeff for filling in, Lisa for doing everything she does online. So we want to honor your time, Jeff. And do you have anything you want to add, or you just want me to throw all the questions at you?
Yes.
Spoken like a true McGee.
Yeah. Well, no, the only thing that I just wanted to respond to a couple of things that some folks said when they were talking about the film. And Dan, I'm glad you went to see it a second time, because I think Corey and I both encouraged you, and we said, look, you're going to enjoy it more the second time. Yeah. But I think it was I think it was Randy who made the comment about Han getting killed. He sort of had a sigh of relief about it. And looking back on it, thinking about it, I think you're absolutely right. And the thing that I do like about it is that it gives this film some weight. This will forever be the film where Han Solo died. And this film being the first one in 10 years and the first with these characters in 30 years, 32 years, needed something to make it special other than just being the first one. And even without that, it would have been a great movie. But that moment alone gave it the weight that makes it more than just another Star Wars movie. This will forever be the one where Han Solo died. And as much as I would love to have Harrison Ford back, if for some reason in the next movie or even the one after that, they pop up and say, oh, wait, he's not really dead, it's really just going to tick me off, because it's going to feel like a bait and switch. And I really, really hope that I'm assuming that he is dead. And I really hope that he is. So that's the other thing that I thought was interesting, and somebody else mentioned this as well, is the first trilogy was all about Luke fighting the draw of the dark side, or Ren fighting the draw of the light side. And I wonder how much of that has to do with there being balance in the Force for once. So those are some of my thoughts. So Danielle, if you want to throw some of those questions at me, throw them at me, and I'll give you my one word responses. And by one word, I mean lots of words.
Absolutely. Okay. And now everybody can kind of take mental notes of these questions too. So my questions in order are: pick 2 characters that spoke to you the most, pick 2 characters that spoke to you the least, critical, analytical perspectives of what you saw, some things you found the least favor with, and any last minute thoughts. So 2 characters that spoke the most to you.
The 2 characters, well, obviously Han Solo always does, because he is my spirit animal, and I hate that I just used the term spirit animal. But
I'll edit it out.
Thank you. And seeing him as old as he was and looking as old as he was, but I connected more with Chewie this time than I ever have before.
I agree.
Especially when he saw Han die, his reaction, and he just. He just basically acted like he didn't care anymore. He just started blowing everything up, and he didn't care if he got out of there. And I'm tearing up right now just thinking about it, because that's his brother, and he just watched him go down, and it really just, his reaction got to me much more so than if he had just said, "Okay, my life debt's done," and thrown the deuces and taken off in the Falcon and just left everybody there to die, which is what I would have done. But as far as besides that, the character that spoke to me the most was probably Finn. I love the character because he's basically a coward who is just running, and his journey is going to be one of. And even by the end of the movie, he stopped running. When he faced off against Kylo Ren with that lightsaber, that to me was the ultimate act of bravery, because he doesn't know how to use that thing, and he's going up against, as far as he knows, a Sith Lord. So I'm glad that he survived, and I'm anxious to see what happens with him. I think Finn was, of the new characters, he was the one that spoke to me the most.
What about the 2 that spoke the least to you?
Well, Captain Phasma, because she didn't really do much, and I really want. I'm glad she's going to be back, because I love the actress. I can't think of her name at the moment.
Gwendolyn Christie.
Gwendolyn Christie. She's phenomenal on Game of Thrones, and. Can't wait to see more of her, but she just was sort of a non-entity. Other than that, the one that spoke to me the least was Snoke, and I know a lot of people are really kind of not digging on that character at all, and I really hope that it's not Darth Plagueis, because I thought he was dead. And I know Matt feels the same way about that. There's just not much there. Yeah, there's not much there. So those were the 2 that I want to see more of Phasma, and I want to see what they're going to do with Snoke.
I want Snoke to be Darth Scabrous.
Darth Scabrous.
I think he's Gollum with a few more linguistic lessons.
Yeah.
All right. So, what about anything analytically that you noticed from the Coffee with Kenobi lens when you were watching it?
This was something that dawned on me when we found out that Finn had been taken at birth and trained to be a stormtrooper. It reminded me of the way the Jedi Order worked with their Padawan learners and their younglings. It's sort of a mirror image, and I'm wondering if that was something that was put in place by the Emperor based on what he knew of the Jedi Order. And I'm wondering, since Finn is so good with a blaster, he didn't know how to use the lightsaber that well, but I'm wondering if we're going to find out that he had some Force sensitivity, and that's why the First Order basically kidnapped him. I'm wondering if we're going to find out that they take Force-sensitive children and put them in their order to keep them from ever learning about the Force.
I think if they knew he was Force sensitive, they would have killed him on the spot. For the same reason the Emperor tried to. I think he's just a very good warrior. He's been trained all his life. In fact, in the book that leads up to it, before the Force Awakens or whatever that gets called, they talk about the fact that he is expected to be one of the best stormtroopers the First Order's ever had. Because he's so talented.
We'll see how that worked out. But I really was just that's the first thing that stuck in my mind was the fact that the First Order basically is working like the Jedi Order as far as how they choose their recruits.
Very good.
Yeah.
So what are some things that you found? We know that everyone has some things that are not necessarily what moves them, that leaves them feeling a little bit flat about the film, which is okay. So what are some things that you found the least favorite with?
The fact that this felt like the first chapter in a story bothered me. It really didn't even feel like the first chapter. It felt like the prologue to the first chapter of a story. I don't really feel like it stands alone as a film in its own right, because it's all introduction. The movie is nothing but introductions, and I don't have a problem with that. I enjoyed the film. I love it. I will go back and see it again. I will watch it, often, early and often when it comes out on home video. But the first Star Wars: A New Hope was a self-contained story for obvious reasons. We didn't know if we were going to get any more. But I just really wish that we had gotten more of a self-contained story that didn't end the way that it ends. I honestly wish that the film had ended with Rey and Chewbacca taking off in the Falcon.
I agree.
Before we saw Luke. Those are my two very, very minor quibbles with the film. That and not enough Poe Dameron, because I loved him. I loved Oscar Isaac in that role.
Oh. So anything else you want to leave us with before you go on your happy way?
No, I think that's pretty much it. I mean, I'm sure I'll think of other things as soon as I log off of here, and then I'll have to be talking about them for the last year or so.
And you can have a great review of this, a mini review with Taylor on
Yeah, Taylor and I did a little mini review after he saw it. He'd only seen it one time. He would see it again after that. But we did a review on Talking Toys with Taylor and Jeff that's also on the Bantha Banter feed, just as we didn't get a Christmas show in this year, so we're like, let's just do this and give the fans a little bit of our listeners, give our listeners a little something extra. But that's available on Bantha Banter and Talking Toys with Taylor and Jeff. And Matt and I will be back next year with more Comics with Kenobi.
That's right. Well, where can everyone reach out to you if they want to say hey?
They can reach me on Twitter at @McGee or at Marvin Dog Media. I'm also on Facebook with Talking Toys and through Coffee with Kenobi. I have my own Coffee with Kenobi email address as well, like a real live boy.
I'm a real boy. That's right. Good work. Well, thanks again, Jeff, and we will chat with you soon.
All right. Later, guys.
All right. So, Corey, we're going to start back with you at the top of this. And Jeff just told us his two characters that spoke to him the most. What about you? What two spoke to you the most from The Force Awakens?
Yeah, it's exciting because, whenever you dissect some of these characters we introduced to, the first question when you get out of a theater with friends or family, who's your favorite character? That's the classic thing. I asked my kids, we talked about it afterwards, our after show, just briefly. And more I see it too, I can go back and watch the characters I did like and analyze them in, future viewings and going on. And I think the one that spoke to me the most was Finn. It was really a debate between Finn and Rey, because I really enjoyed their characters. Their back and forth dialogue was really well done, well written, well acted. But I think Finn really did it for me because I think his motivations were so pure. Every time he, would wake up out of unconscious or on the run, he's grabbing people's hand. He's asking, "Hey, are you okay?" Or he's running after Rey. It seemed like he was really active enough to pursue her for his own good in order to look out for her. And as much as Jeff had mentioned, he is kind of a coward in a sense. He can't make the commitment to become Stormtrooper. But I think that's his own devices working inside his mind to be able to understand who he is. And the moment there, he couldn't make that choice. So I sympathize with that because, I have a hard time making decisions for myself and kind of leading the life I want to lead. It seems like it related to him on a personal level, which I thought was really cool. But yet, I think his motivations for doing what he does do in the film are of good. They're of heart. He had a big, huge heart on him. I think he was cool. I think John Boyega did a great job. And then it takes me to Rey as my second favorite character that spoke to me. I thought she was really great, well done. She wasn't overplayed. She wasn't underplayed. She was just right. Daisy Ridley did a great job acting as well. Her scenes, even with her having dialogue, I felt like there's emotion there. There's symmetry as far as she has debate in her mind. You can see that wandering, and we see that throughout the other films too, with Anakin and Luke wanting to have more in their lives and kind of understand the mystery of what they're pursuing. And Daisy really did a good job of jumping the Falcon as well and flipping switches and taking command in her own right. Then, of course, towards the end, where she bested Kylo Ren and learning from him to the ways of the Force and opening that up into her life. And it was such a huge step for her because she just wanted to go back and wait for her family to return. And I think there was really a lot of growth there. We talk about the title of the film, The Force Awakens. I think it definitely did for her. So I think those two characters are really well done. I'm excited to see where they go. I think they've grown so much from this film. Like we said, they're introduced to us, and there's a lot of introductions here. But these two are definitely ones I'm going to keep my eye on and really enjoy.
All right, very good. Well, thank you, sir. Matt, let's turn it to you.
Sorry about that. I had to get my mute off. My favorite characters. I'm going to have to really roll on this one. Is Kylo Ren, and that being I think we have an astounding new villain who is deeply flawed, and for whom the light is the enemy. And it was a wonderful sort of literally negative reversal with how Darth Vader was trying to keep the light at bay, or whereas with Darth Vader trying to keep the light at bay, we have Kylo Ren trying to do the same thing and keeping the light at bay, whereas we had Luke Skywalker fighting against the darkness, as we saw in The Empire Strikes Back when he bested himself on Dagobah, and then of course with him fighting in Return of the Jedi against Vader and refusing to bow to the Emperor, and finally cementing his allegiance to the light side. And I found that very provocative, and I think we're going to see this play out through Episode 8 and indeed into Episode 9. And I like how Kylo Ren and Ben Solo he's not perfect by any means, and he knows this. And it's obvious when Snoke realizes that Rey was able to stop Ren from doing his mind probe on her, and he orders him to bring her to him in order to complete his training, because he realizes that this is causing Ben Solo a lot of doubt and probably putting some cracks into his long set plans for the future. And so that's going to play out too, I think, as well. In terms of some of the analytical aspects of this film,
it was your other character though that speaks?
My other character it's no doubt it's Poe Dameron.
Really, cool.
And it is, and that's one of the things I really liked about how The Force Awakens. We see characters like Poe Dameron who are stemming, albeit tangentially, from characters in the previous trilogy. I mean, Poe is the son of Sheriff Bay and Kes Dameron, whom we meet in Shattered Empire, the comic book series, the miniseries. But he grew up on Yavin, and he was taught to fly by his mother in her A-wing, and then he goes on to have this history, where he's recruited by Princess Leia, and his story is it culminates in The Force Awakens, but we realize that he is part of this wider arc that's appearing in other media, including some of these books, and that in turn kind of ties into what my other favorite character, the other characters I like were Snap Wexley, and I believe it was Jessica Pavic, both of them X-wing pilots, because again we're seeing characters that were introduced to us not in the film, but in the books leading up to the film, and it's giving us the ability to get to know them on a deeper level. Even someone like Kalo and Emot, who was in the Resistance Battle Command Center, and who's been with Leia since very much at the start of the rebellion. So, which I thought was kind of
cool. Yeah, that is very cool. Randy, what about you? What are the two characters that spoke the most to you?
I think first and foremost is Rey. And at the beginning, it was during that little clip that they showed during the music awards. I thought I was kind of nervous because I didn't feel like her line of dialogue was executed very well. I thought it was kind of cheesy, where she points to the Skyhopper and we need to get to that Skyhopper. It was just like. That's the name of the toy that they're going to sell a lot of. It just seemed like it was not natural, but in the context of the scene, it totally well. And so that was one particular line I was nervous about because I didn't think it was very well executed. But in the context of the whole movie, it was awesome. I love the development of Rey as a character. I love the fact that that there was a lot of there's a lot of footage or there was a lot of movie before she says her first words. So you really felt the solitude that she was in. You felt her loneliness. And before she even had a single line of dialogue, there was so much, mystery. And so I really appreciated her character. I loved just her performance from beginning to end. I just thought she was the coolest character, and it was so well done. And her story, I can't wait to see who she belongs to. And I'm the opposite. I'm already talking about Plagueis and all that kind of stuff. I'm already speculating. Was Luke crying because he was looking at his lightsaber, or was he crying because he was looking at his daughter? Was he crying because I had so many questions at the end. At the end of that scene and the very end of the movie. And my second character was, I love Poe Dameron. I thought Poe Dameron was a cool character. I thought he fit in with the Rogue Squadron kind of dude. I thought that his sarcasm at the beginning, do you speak first or do I talk first? How's this go? How does this whole captivity thing go? Because I've never experienced this before, that kind of thing. So I thought that was really cool. I can't, and I do sense that there's a future. We just saw the tip of the iceberg. That there's a huge, and if they don't go there, that'll be kind of a bummer for me because I felt like they really endeared us to that particular character as kind of a carrot. Like, wait till we show you the rest of this guy because it's going to be cool. And so that was one of the other characters that I really fell in love with. And of course, BB-8. I love the little. I know that's a third you said too, but the little thumbs up thing that he did with the flame was so funny, so cool. So anyway, but Rey and Poe Dameron, those are my two characters.
Excellent. Luke, what about you?
All right, well, I'm going to start out with, let's go with Harrison Ford and Han Solo. Obviously I liked him in the other movies, but I really felt like he stepped right into that character. And you could tell from all his facial expressions, the way he acted and everything, it really brought me right back to that original trilogy. Just all the scenes, the way he acted, the way he talked. I feel like I could go back, watch those movies, and I know for sure that this guy, that's just him. It's either him being him or he never forgot how to play that character. And I really feel like the fact that he died, it really makes that movie, like when I went back and watched it the second time, it made it that much more special. Every scene I saw with him, it was kind of like a finale or something, or a last hurrah. And all those scenes I just started enjoying more and more and more. And it just really brought me back a lot of nostalgia there. And for the second character, surprisingly, I'm going to have to go with like BB-8. I've never liked the droids. I never really was an R2-D2 or C-3PO fan, but for some reason I loved BB-8. That lighter scene was hilarious. I just felt like he had a lot more personality, a lot more being in him than the other droids. I don't know. I can't even explain it. I just liked him as a character, and I've never liked droids, so it's kind of weird. But
nothing wrong with that. Yeah, that's cool.
So,
that's cool. We've all got unique ones, and so far, no one has picked my two together. Interesting. Aaron, what about you?
Oh, well, first, I liked Finn. Finn, I'm going to have to disagree with Jeff. I didn't see Finn as a coward. It took a lot of guts to do what he did, to run away from the First Order, to free Poe Dameron for his escape, and to run like that, realizing that everything that was wrong with the situation he was in. So that, to me, in my point of view, that took guts to do. He may have showed a little bit of cowardice when he didn't necessarily tell everybody who he was or where he was really from. But from what you can tell, nobody really thinks fondly of the First Order at that point at all. So you can understand that. So I really admired the stand he took when he didn't fire on those villagers at the beginning, when he made that decision to run and defy Phasma, defy Hux, defy Kylo Ren, and ultimately Snoke, and make his escape because he did not believe in the cause that he was there to fight, that they wanted him to fight for. As for the other, it's got to be Rey. Rey, there was to realize where she was alone. She was by herself. She decided to help BB-8 and move on. She came to that realization that you can't just sit still and wait for things to find you. And she went looking. She eventually was forced to go on the search at that point, and that's how she began to find herself, began to grow, began to meet people, and eventually wound up on an island in the middle of it, surrounded in the ocean like in her dreams, handing Luke Skywalker his lightsaber. So those are the two that spoke the most to me at this point in the movie.
Interesting. It'll be interesting to see how you feel when you've seen it again, too, and as well as everyone, but the two that spoke the most to me were Kylo Ren and Han Solo. Kylo Ren spoke to me because, and I wrote about this in the review as well, but all of the The Force Awakens merchandise and publicity and hype centered on Kylo Ren. I expected a lot from him, and I didn't really get what I was expecting, and that was good and bad. The problem with these movies, these beautiful Star Wars movies, is that I have such ownership of these films, more than I should. And I have a certain way that I play out my mind how I think things will go, which is one of the reasons why I probably avoid spoilers and speculation so much, because I already have such a painting in my mind anyway. So I expect him to be different, more powerful, and he wasn't. And that's the beauty of him, because as Rey reads his mind, essentially, she says, "You're afraid you're not going to be as powerful as Darth Vader." And that scared him, and he's very vulnerable. He's very flawed. And I think he's fascinating. I think he is Shakespearean in similar ways that with Darth Vader is perhaps even more so in some ways. I think when you think about Vader's appearance in A New Hope, he's hardly on screen, and he's interesting, but there's no reason to find him interesting besides the fact that he looks amazing, and he clearly has a connection to Obi-Wan Kenobi. But other than that, he's just this hulking brute of awesome. Kylo Ren, we have all of his flaws and his foibles right away. I love the tantrums that he does, very different than Vader's. They're dangerous in very different ways, and I just think he's interesting. Han Solo was interesting because he is back, and how many thousands and thousands and millions of words have been written in novels and comics about Han Solo since Return of the Jedi, and there's always that real concern that these characters are not going to feel like the characters we know and love from the original trilogy films. And every beat of Harrison Ford was flawless. I would be very happy if he got an Oscar nomination for Best Supporting Actor, because he nailed it. As Jeff said, his chemistry with Chewie was maybe the best it's ever been. I really felt the connection between the two of them, his compassion for his son at the end. That whole scene, we could do an entire show on that scene where he talks to his son and he shows pure unconditional love. And then when Kylo Ren runs him through, I had a hard time with that scene, as I mentioned before, with the spoilers and that sort of thing. But as I watched it again and I talked with my wife, she said when Kylo Ren is crying, and I'm purposely not saying Ben Solo, Matt, just because I don't think Ben Solo exists anymore, I think those tears on Kylo Ren's face are tears of joy, because he wants to not have any of the light in him, and killing his father is his last vestige of any light that he might possibly have. He pushes him off the ledge, and then he gets to turn himself over completely to evil. And I think he's truly an evil character that is not going to be redeemed, and that is interesting because he's going to be tested. So let's go back to the top of our list again. Corey, back to you. Anything from a critical analytical perspective, different moments? I know that we're basically asking you to spend the next 2 years in 2 minutes analyzing this film, but what particular themes did you notice or motifs about this movie?
Do we want to talk about characters we spoke to us the least? Or?
Oh yeah, I guess we could. I was going to leave that one off, but we can go back to that. We'll
mix it in.
My raving intro for the critical questions later. So yeah, tell me the two that spoke to you the least.
Sure.
And I guess maybe so this podcast isn't 74 hours long. We'll try to keep our answers to just a few minutes.
Sure.
And that includes me. Okay, Go ahead.
Yeah, so the two characters that spoke to me the least, I think Captain Phasma was overhyped. I wanted to like her so much just from getting to know from production values, and Gwendolyn Christie was playing her. It was just unique that she was just taller than everybody else. Her figure was demanding. Silver armor was cool, really awesome. But I think her presence on film was just underused. I felt she could have been used differently. And then she just, she kind of gave up at the end when they were looking to take down the shields, and she kind of, did it simply. She didn't put up a fight, which seemed like uncharacteristic for her as a character. And she didn't fire a blaster once. So I'm like, I feel like, man, I really wish they would have used her more. I'm assuming they'll go further, her into other episodes and get to know her some more and get to see where she comes from. But, I think it was a great character to introduce, but yet they could have done more with her. And then also, I wanted to see Luke so bad. I think that was even from that opening crawl, Luke has disappeared or has vanished, and it's just like, oh my gosh, my whole mind was like, where's he at? What's he doing? And all these little hints and they put out throughout the film, and then of course we don't see him until the very, very end. And I was just kind of like, man, I wanted to see him so bad, but looking further in the production values and the notes and stuff, J.J. Abrams kind of said, or maybe it was Lawrence Kasdan that said that if we were to introduce Luke, midway through the film or whatnot, he would have trumped any other character, made them feel a little more less of a character. And I thought, okay, I can agree with that. So I kind of raised it a little bit more for me, I guess, for this character. But I guess those two and a couple other underused characters were. I felt the stormtroopers could have been used better too. Flame troopers are in the ice trooper or the snow troopers and such. But it was some of those characters, I guess, were underused for me.
Oh, interesting. Matt, what about you?
Well, in terms of my least favorite characters?
Yes. Not necessarily. They just spoke the least to you. You didn't connect with them as much.
Well, definitely Captain Phasma. She was highly overrated, and there was a big buildup ahead of the film about her, about how cool she was, and she had maybe 5 minutes, if that much, on screen. In the novelization, she had about the same amount of time as well. And if anything, she just ended up being almost like the Lieutenant Callie of the Jakku massacre, because she's not a very nice person. And I didn't really think that the character was fleshed out enough. I would have liked to have seen more, especially, her interest in Finn, or as she knew him as FN 2187. Mm-hmm. And I also thought Hux was lacking. He was just basically a little Führer knockoff, and there was really nothing more than just his fanatical devotion to Supreme Leader Snoke driving his character development, and that was about it. It just seemed kind of, there could have been more to him, as to why he was like this, exactly what his role was and why he was doing what he was doing, and how he got to be in such a dominant position at such a young age. And then finally, and I'm going on a limb here, to me, the one character I really did not connect with at all was a collective character, and that's the government of the New Republic. Yeah. I was just astounded that so little was devoted to them, and what we did see was the fact that they were just essentially, running around with their ostrich buried deep in the sands of Hosnian Prime.
And not to mention the fact that it's very confusing how the Resistance is in existence with the New Republic, and they're working together, but they're not working together. It was clear as mud.
Well, and I think it, perhaps some of this was clipped in the editing process, but I think it should have made a little clearer. I think, especially for the casual film goer who's watching this, that the Resistance is essentially almost like an elite strike force that does off the books military work for the New Republic, because the New Republic doesn't want to poke at the First Order. Of course, didn't really end very well for the New Republic because they should have been poking around. So, but that's my take.
Very good. Randy, what about you?
Yeah, I had not even thought about that. That sounds more of my frustration as far as, I never considered the Republic as a character, but maybe that I'll kind of add to your thoughts there, Matt, at the end of our discussion here. But the characters that I did not relate to very well. And I've already shared, I was really disappointed with the fact that that wasn't Plagueis. I think because I had it set. I just don't know who that is. Like, if it's not Plagueis, if it's not somebody that was more powerful than Sidious, then where was he during all of this? Like, in 30 years, did he amass the finances? Did he amass the power? Was he a child? He doesn't look like he was a child during Sidious's reign. Like, if he's not Plagueis, then that's totally lame, because how did he function outside of the knowledge of the Emperor? Like, I just don't get who that character is if it's not somebody that was more powerful than Sidious, and so that was frustrating for me. And I'm hoping. I think I'm holding on to the fact that it is Plagueis, just so I can hold on to the fact that it's not a totally lame character, because I don't see his motivation. I don't see his backstory. I don't see how he could have come about outside the knowledge of Darth Sidious. So that was one character. I wish that I would have known more about Max von Sydow's character. I'm assuming that would have been Wedge. I think that would be amazing if they just named him Wedge. But I was kind of confused as to him as a character. But I think so. Number one would be Snoke. Number two would be probably Phasma, only because I just didn't think it was believable that, with a gun to her head, that she would shut down the shield. I didn't think that was. I think that was a plot hole that it was too easy. Hold a gun to one person so you can blow up Starkiller Base just didn't make sense to me. It seemed like she could have just turned a gun and she could have just ended her own life rather than give up all of Starkiller Base.
Yeah, it seems to me she would have just taken the laser shot to the skull.
Yeah, fine, shoot me. As opposed to,
fought back.
Okay, well, I don't know what you think you're going to do, but I'm going to just I'm with you. Those are two.
All right, there you go. All right, Luke, what about you?
All right, so I don't want to rehash too much, so I'll skip Snoke and I'll just go with Phasma again. I agree, the same thing. If she's some fanatical leader of the First Order, I don't understand why she would just lay down and let that happen. She's very passive and there was just nothing there in that character, and I feel like they could have done a lot more with her. And then for the second one, so that general's name is Hux, that's his name?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, he was the worst character. He was so annoying. I liked the Empire too, and all those other on the trilogy.
That's
true.
You're an Empire fan. That's right.
But
okay.
Man, every time he was talking, like, this guy is just some whiny kid. When he's yelling at all the troops and all that, I'm like, it's almost uncomfortable. Like, I don't know. I just really disliked that character. And I mean, even some of the other Empire generals I didn't mind, like Captain Piet. I didn't mind him. And maybe it's just me wanting a Thrawn in there, but man, I didn't like that character at all. So
he just seemed like one of those kids, like, all right, you're going to fire the laser killer. I'm going to take my ball and we're going to go home.
And this is,
we did get a good close up of his nostrils, though. I mean,
that's true. Yeah, and some spit coming out, I think, too.
Yeah.
Guys, I really liked that scene. I thought it was like, I thought he nailed it. Like, okay, here's the deal. You're standing in front of a blue screen. Give me all the hate you got, and I want you to cry when you do. I thought he nailed that scene. I mean, all the others I was confused with.
Too much.
The acting in this film is better than any acting in Star Wars film since 1983.
It was good.
I agree.
I just didn't think it just wasn't neat. I think it was just too much for that scene.
That's fair.
But all right, that's my quick analysis.
Very good. Aaron, what about you?
Well, of course, not to rehash much of anything, but Phasma definitely disappointed me. I was expecting so much more, and we got thrown in a trash compactor, per se.
Yeah.
Because I seriously doubt if she was such a serious military leader, a 70-year-old man and a renegade stormtrooper would take her captive that easily, much less force her to do the things that they did, even under threat of a trash compactor. The other one, Actually, I got to go with Luke. Hux was a little underwhelming for me. I found it hard to believe that someone so young would be and have that much power at that point over these thousands of troops, over this entire base. I expected more along the lines of almost a Tarkin type character. And I got a Wedge Antilles from the first movie. And it was underwhelming for me in that case. So those were the two that I was not as impressed with.
All right. Well, I think we're going to make it even across the board. And my number one character I was most disappointed in is Phasma as well, for different reasons, though. And this isn't really a rehash. And none of these are really rehashes because we all have our own different spin, which is one of the great things about our discussions. But with Phasma, I don't blame Phasma. I don't blame the character. I don't blame the script. I blame the marketing. The reason we have such a buildup for Phasma is because she was plastered over everything. She was the hardest Black Series figure to find. You're welcome, Corey Club.
Yeah.
And there was just so much about her that we were so drawn to. Topps had all these incredible cards displaying her image. They sold posters of her, and she was hardly in the movie. I mean, they didn't even show her use a weapon or do anything military except for marching and looking cool. But Star Wars, let's be honest, everyone, has a beautifully rich history of incredible characters that have almost no screen time and do nothing, but are built up because of the action figures. I mean, Boba Fett is a prime example of that. Although he does shoot a weapon. Darth Maul was the big face for the Phantom Menace. He's hardly in it, and then we know what happens to him at the end until Clone Wars comes around and changes things. So I don't really blame her. I wanted to connect more, and I have faith that this character will come back with more bravado. So we'll see. I kind of put an asterisk by that. And the other one that spoke to me the least would be Snoke. I don't think Snoke was completely flat to me. I love Andy Serkis. His performance is great. That voice is powerful and commanding, but he did not advance the storyline at all. I think you could have just had Kylo Ren with maybe a name of Snoke, which is still kind of an absurd name, let's be honest. And it's just sort of, that character left me empty. I would have rather saved Snoke for later, and maybe that's too much of me wanting him to be like the Emperor in The Empire Strikes Back. I have no problem with the waiting, and that's why I love what they did with Luke. He was so powerful throughout the whole thing. He was the MacGuffin, and then his big reveal at the end was amazing because it's the tradition of Star Wars where sometimes key characters don't appear in everything. I mean, we don't see Yoda or hear about Yoda in A New Hope, yet he's one of the most iconic characters not only in Star Wars but in fiction, period. So I'm looking forward to big things from Luke in Episode 8. So back to the top. Cora, we talked about the critical analytical things. And let me pause here for a second. Guys, are any of you ready to fall asleep, or how are we doing on time?
Yeah, I'm doing all right.
Dude, I'm getting into
here.
this.
I'm doing good.
All right.
Yeah, I'm good.
Keep it rolling.
All right, let's do it. All right, so Corey, critical analytical things you want to point out that you think would be, maybe we'll just frame it this way, everybody.
Sure.
Topics of things that we think we should analyze and would be great for future shows, if anything else.
Yeah, definitely. We talk about the light and the dark. That's kind of the biggest issue, I think, here. Kylo Ren did a lot for me, where he was, every time he'd take off his helmet, he would kind of step into the light, I felt. Keeping the helmet on, keeping him in the darkness. So those perspectives of his struggle for that, as well as Rey and Finn's struggle for light and dark, and you see that battle between each of the characters, no matter what background they come from. So I think it's a big issue in this film. Also, I love the heart and the adventure of these characters. Poe Dameron and Finn and Rey all had great hearts on them. They're looking to do good and change lives and save the galaxy, and looked out for others, looked out for folks that were just minor characters and villagers and things like that. You could just see that the good people were, wore it on their sleeve. I felt that was really a wonderful thing to see. And then, of course, the adventure. It was a high adventure, space odyssey, aliens, gangs, run through ships, blowing explosions, and I think it was just a great way to experience it for a new generation to be able to see a Star Wars film and understand that we can have a lot of fun, along with some comedy involved. I also think the cinematography was really well done, beautiful, very artistic. The shots were really good. I felt like again, the themes involved with those were the light and dark themes. You could see that just overly expressed. But I think for certain reasons and good reasons we can dive deeper into later on. And then, of course, the characters, I think, for themselves were very diverse, but they all tied together through some tragedy or another. So tragedy ended their lives, and they're kind of banded together to work together and work through those issues and walk past themselves to onto a bigger agenda. And we get to see them struggle. I think the other thing too is it's not easy to see someone who's doing so much good, but yet they're struggling with something else, like Han Solo and their estranged son. I didn't expect that. I think it was a nice thing to see, because not every family's perfect. Not everybody's happy-go-lucky, and I think it was interesting to see that portrayed in a Star Wars film, and yet well done by the actors themselves, and really played out well. So there's some of the things that I thought of as far as kind of analytical perspective that we can dive into in future episodes.
Very good. Well, my hand was writing away quickly as you were speaking, so I'll get all that in. All right, Matt, what about you?
In terms of the critical analysis of all of this, I think it gives us when George Lucas made the first Star Wars film, in one of his interviews, he talked about this sort of being like, his take on Vietnam, given us the 1970s and whatnot. For me, in watching The Force Awakens and given my worldly experiences, what I found fascinating was how we were given this view of how the stormtroopers operate. Mm-hmm. Finn talks about, being, he's, in telling his life story that, he was just a baby when he was, called into service and indoctrinated. When Hux and Phasma are talking about why Finn went bad, the data file shows not a current picture of FN 2187, but the baby picture, of him as a 1 or 2 year old on file. And then we see him, in the melee around Maz Kanata's castle, where he's holding the lightsaber and he's engaging with the shock trooper, and the way that trooper screams out at him, "Traitor!" It's clear they knew each other. Mm-hmm. Because it's either that or there was a picture of Finn's face on every troop deployment vessel hitting the surface because they wanted him dead. And I found it fascinating that we were getting an eye, this wonderful first person view of what it takes to be a stormtrooper, because for so long stormtroopers have been nothing more than cannon fodder. They're the guys who can't shoot to save their lives. There's plenty of them. They're easily manipulated. They're not really good at anything except taking laser cannon fire and serving as a way for people to climb over hills and mountains, on their dead bodies. And now we realize that they are a legitimate force and who are people, but yet they are so heavily indoctrinated that for one of them to even consider leaving is an astounding thing. I mean, even Leia Organa herself, the general says this when she meets Finn, it's astounding. It's unheard of. Such bravery for you to disavow the First Order. I mean, it's almost as if we were left with the impression that this has never happened. And I would like to see this sort of dive a little deeper, and show the contextual analysis of how this is affecting the galaxy and the Star Wars universe. And in a sense, as you guys brought up earlier, does it also reflect badly upon the Jedi Order? Because we have these rumors, this speculation that perhaps the Knights of Ren laid waste to Luke's nascent Jedi Academy. Yet were these Jedi Academy students also very young people who were brought in, much like the old days and the old ways? And what makes that any better than what the First Order is doing to the stormtroopers?
I definitely think we've got a topic there as well. The stormtrooper thing really spoke to me, and much to learn. We still have, as far as that goes, to be sure. Randy, what about you? Particular analytical moments that you think would be worthy of further analysis and dissection?
Well, I just saw the movie last night again. And so one of the things that's fresh in my mind right now, and I just want to say it out loud and then go to the other things I'd like to talk about. But I don't know if you guys noticed, but when Rey got to the top of the mountain and found Luke Skywalker, when Luke Skywalker still had his back to her, back to the camera, they were the soundtrack behind it was the Imperial March. It was the Imperial March. So when you see Luke Skywalker for the very first time on screen, you hear dun 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 dun. Like there, you hear that.
Really?
Like Vader. Yeah, you hear Vader's march, and when I heard that, I turned to my wife and I said, "That's Vader's song. That's Vader's music. Like why in that point does John Williams or J.J. Abrams? Why do you put that there in that very moment?" And so that floored me. And so I was wondering, why? And then it's just for like 2 bars, just like one progression through that melody, and then it moves on to that real big like string, kind of more of heroic, I don't know, Force-ish kind of melody. Yeah, the Force theme. Melody and kind of blends into something else, but at the very beginning, that's what you hear. And so I would love to talk about that and definitely going to see the movie again to make sure I'm not crazy. But I'm sure I heard that, and so much so that I turned to my wife and said, "Hey, that's Vader's song." So,
well, when you watch it again, notice also in that scene there appears to be some sort of a gravestone as well.
Yeah, and she steps over something too. There's something that before she takes a step, she looks down and and it was like this like little footstool or something, and so there was a lot in the final moments there that just kind of blew by the first time, and maybe I caught it the second time, and I'm sure I'm going to catch more of it as we continue to watch it.
I got to admit, I didn't think that was a gravestone. I think that was just a shallow outcropping of rock. You're not the first person, Dan, to say that. And when I went back and saw it again for the third time, I paid particular attention to that one. Even made sure my seat was positioned at a vantage point to look a really good straight on view. And I just I've been to Skellig Michael. That is a very rocky place. And there's big rocks, and small rocks, and mid, and fair to midland rocks. And I think that that's not a gravestone. I could be wrong. I did not write. I've not seen the script for episode 8. It could be. Who knows? Sure. The whole island could be a massive, ossuary, and I may not know.
Well, maybe that thing that Ray stepped over was your cell phone that you lost when you were there.
Those old Nokias are beasts. I'm sure it still works.
I don't know for sure if it's a grace or not, but it sure seems to be one by the way he's looking in the slant. It looks like there's Orabesh on it, but I could be smoking crack.
Don't do that.
Don't do that, kids. It's not good.
It's whack.
Did you guys think that this is one of the criticisms I had? Did you guys think that that the whole Rey finding the lightsaber, calling her in the place that she just happened to be? I felt like the Legends line of books gets a lot of criticism for being a small universe, and that was super small universe-y to me. That she just happens to be at Maz Kanata's place and just happens to bump into Luke Skywalker's. What did you guys?
No, if it's not small, if that hasn't happened for 30 years. With the amount of people that go in and out of there based on Han Solo's description, no. In fact, that's going to be my critical thing that I'm going to talk about.
So you think that was okay?
Absolutely.
You think that's cool?
I think it was fine because that's the whole idea behind this. The Star Wars saga is that it's this massively vast expanse of space and universe. Yet that's this small core group of people whose paths continuously intersect and bisect one another in unusual ways. So and this is almost par for the course.
Oh, it's biological. It's genetic. It's spiritual. It's kinesthetic. It's everything. It's in fact it changes the Force quite a bit. I think this movie does.
I guess maybe I just thought it was sort of I don't know, just like random, like come on, like
maybe you saw the Sisters movie. Maybe that's what you're thinking. No. That was Matt. Sorry, I got it.
But one of the things I really, really would like to talk about is just Kylo Ren as a character, his insecurity, yet his powerful insecurity. The fact that he was so unsure, so insecure, so, if power is, strength under control or whatever the definition of that, or if I've got things messed up there, but, like power under control, that's meekness, right? Meekness is power under control, I guess. But I guess that analogy doesn't work. Edit that out. Have that removed. Anyway, just the whole idea of this extremely evil, dark character with so much insecurity and so weak and strong at the same time. And when Rey cracks into his mind and pushes back into his mind, and we see that, and we see his fear, and we see all of that. That is such a. We could talk about. I mean, that's not just one podcast. We could all talk about that on all our podcasts forever, and never find the bottom of that one. But I just think that is that's just a clever development of a character, and he was so complex and super cool. So that's my. So I'm going to think about the whole small universe thing, but I did feel like, oh, what a coincidence that happened. But
no, that's fair. Luke, what about you?
I mean, I felt similar. The fact that they run into the Millennium Falcon, the fact that they take off and then Han Solo and Chewie pick him up, the fact that they find a lightsaber that was cut off Luke's hand and all that. So I felt like that a little bit too, but at the same time, I didn't really care. But I did feel like the plot was rehashed a lot, and that was kind of an issue with me. And then the Starkiller base, that was the biggest thing. I'm like, this is Death Star 3.0. Nobody found this. Nobody saw this. I don't know. It's just kind of one of those things. It's like, how didn't anybody see that they were building this? And then once I saw the second trench run, or where they fly inside, I was like, man, this reminds me of Return of the Jedi or Episode 4. So that was like the biggest issues, I guess, I had with the film. I felt like it was just rehashed a little bit. But if I was to talk about one thing with you guys, and we did a podcast about it, it'd probably be the vision that Rey gets when she grabs that lightsaber. The first time I saw it, I was completely confused after. I'm like, what just happened? I heard Yoda's voice. I think I heard Obi-Wan. There's a bunch of random scenes. I'm like, what just happened? So after seeing it the second time, I was still kind of confused of what each piece means. And I think we could all go into that. Maybe you guys know whatever piece means of that, but I sure don't. So that's what I would like to talk about someday.
There's a lot of great articles out there about that already, for sure. Aaron, what about you? Anything from a critical analytical standpoint that you think would be worth talking about in a future show?
Ditto. Y'all are hit on everything I've been thinking about since I saw the movie, from the vision that Rey had when she found the lightsaber. I'd love to dig into that, to see and do a complete character analysis of Kylo. There's so many sides to this guy that we haven't seen and that we have seen that just complicates his story so much. His relationship with his parents, his relationship with Luke, and the Jedi Academy that he was in group he was starting. Those are definitely some things we'll hopefully eventually get answers to, but definitely some things that I would love to dig into and break down and just get inside their heads on that.
Sure. For me, light and dark, I think, is the major theme in this film. And another thing that's a major theme in this film is identity. Who are you? And I think we see that from Rey, from Finn, and from Kylo Ren. We see a little bit from Han Solo. We see it from Luke, even though albeit briefly. So I think the idea of identity and who are you afraid of, and who do you want to be, I think those are all very powerful motifs in literature that are concurrent throughout this entire film. This spoke a lot to me. I think what Matt talked about with the stormtroopers, I think, is fascinating. I don't think that that Finn is a coward in any way, shape, or form for many of the reasons that Aaron said. I think it takes an incredible amount of courage to leave what you've known all your life. There are a lot of people in the world who hate their jobs, and they don't involve killing people, but they don't leave their jobs because they're afraid of what might be after. He leaves maybe one of the most powerful forces in the galaxy will hunt him down and kill him. He's seen the atrocities they commit. I think he's maybe the bravest character in this movie. So I think there's a lot there. I like the juxtaposition of the fact that the Jedi and the First Order recruit from early on and what that means and taking away the ability to choose. I think this film is rich. I think this film is really, really rich for analysis in more powerful, gut-wrenching ways than we really looked at Star Wars or had an opportunity to do so. I think one of the reasons this movie is such a paradox for fans, longtime fans like all of us, is that it doesn't feel like Star Wars, but one of the reasons it doesn't feel like Star Wars is because it so much does that we don't recognize it because we're too close to the material. And I think there's richer stuff here than maybe we've ever seen before. So in the interest of time, I'm going to combine the last couple of questions into basically one. And it's really, as I said, it's a two-part question. So some things that you found the least favor with, and some of you have already answered that perhaps. I also want to know if you have a particularly favorite scene. So, Corey, any things you found the least amount of favor with, as well as a favorite scene from The Force Awakens?
Sure. I will say some things I didn't really like was Rey instantly jumping in the Falcon and switching buttons and going crazy and knowing where everything's at, and she's never flown it before, and I guess she just kind of just jumped in it. And to me, the Falcon is one of those ships that, Han really kind of had to baby along, here and there, let's change this and that. And it was kind of he had this connection with it where he knew where everything was going. He had the pulse of it. And for someone just to jump in there and take on and just fly it like, they flew it yesterday, it seemed like it was a little off for me. I mean, it was more her connection to the Force maybe was kind of burgeoning, if you want to give it that.
Hey.
So, yeah. And I also felt something my dad picked out really stuck with me. And my dad, he's a great guy, and he sees the craziest things. And he's like, at Maz Kanata's castle, where they're flying into the woods there, and they land, and they all go into this bar seemingly in the middle of nowhere. He said, "Where are all these people park? Where's the parking lot for this bar and cantina that I don't see anybody else?" I was like, "Only my dad would see that." And I was like, "Oh yeah, where's everybody else's ship that we don't see parked in the woods?" But I don't know. That was kind of funny. But I thought the Knights of Ren were underused as well. I meant to mention that earlier. We kind of give a flash of who they are, and we don't even get a background of what his name originates from, or how he named him himself. I think that was an interesting aspect. I wish they could have alluded to a little bit more of that background. But also,
well, not unlike the Sith and Vader from A New Hope, they don't even mention the Sith in A New Hope.
Right, but he even mentions it a little bit, I guess. In kind of giving him a stern talking to, and it just, I don't know, it's just, again, it's one of those things they build up along with his name, before the movie kind of came out. Just, they built a lot of issues where I was like, well, I'm interested to see it in the film because they're going to talk about it or do something, and they just kind of fell flat a little bit for me. And then, of course, a lot of people have talked about Starkiller Base and being, similar to the Death Star, and just kind of was a little unoriginal for me. But I think the biggest issue for me is just watching the film in its whole was the cutting from the ending celebration scene of them, celebrating getting back to the Rebel base or the Resistance base, and then cutting to Luke. I felt like it was just a hard transition in the way the film was processing. I was like, yeah, we did a good job, everyone, and all of a sudden we found Luke, and of course they had to bring that about and leave it at that. But I felt like it was just a really an interesting way they kind of edited it that way or put it together that way. That kind of rubbed me the wrong way, I guess.
So real quickly, 30 words or less, favorite scene.
Favorite scene, man, I was kind of thinking about this. I guess, I'll have to go with the final lightsaber battle because it was cool because I felt like it was two kids were given lightsabers and they're told to go at it, and I was like, that's perfect because they were, very young in the Force and both looking just to do damage, and I think it's what my kids would do. So very fun.
I'm no mathematician, but I think that was over 30 words.
You have to count.
Yeah, that's right. Okay. Matt, what about you? Things that you found the least amount of favor with, and then I'll throw favorite scene at you as well.
Well, my least favorite thing about the whole film was the fact that they had these amazing, awesome kick-A guys from the raid playing in Kenja Club.
Oh, yeah.
And all they did was run around.
And get eaten. Yeah.
That was it. I mean, that could have been such an awesome segue to have those guys bouncing all over the place and, doing the martial artistry that they're so revered for, but we didn't get to really see anything. I mean, the scene itself was okay because it showed that Han is a smuggler, albeit not a very good smuggler, but it just, I don't know, the whole thing, you could tell they were trying to do some sort of homage to, to pirates in space, and it didn't quite work. And I thought that those guys could have been utilized a whole lot better. I'm hoping we'll see some of that, in Rogue One next year. With some of the people they've hired. And as for the best scene, there is no doubt, hands down, that reveal when Leia walks out of the troop transport and that music swells and you just get that emotional vibe and, there's Han, there's Leia, and then C-3PO pokes his head. And I just thought that captures it, that nails it. That is the best way to have brought him into all of this because it was splendidly perfect. And there's no way they could have topped that.
Oh, man, that was a great intro. Randy, what about you?
Well, I just don't understand why they had to blow up the Capitol from the Hunger Games. That's what it felt like. It's like, oh no, Starkiller Base is blowing up the Capitol. Like, no, I'm just kidding. I didn't have. I think I've already mentioned the stuff that I was kind of unhappy with. So I'll just share my favorite scene and I didn't, just so you guys know, I didn't cry through the whole thing. I thought I was gonna, and I think I had about 30 people with me, and they were all looking at me, waiting for me to start crying. And because we had like 2 or 3 rows of people and some scattered around, just waiting to see what my reaction was going to be to different scenes and stuff. And but I did kind of get a lump in my throat when Poe and Finn saw each other again and they knew each other was alive. And when they ran toward each other, I just had this flashback of Luke Skywalker jumping off of his X-Wing and yelling, Carrie, or yelling, Luke, and he meant to say Leia, but I just, that final scene, those two guys running without there's no pride and no dudeness. It was just like, I'm so happy you're alive, my friend. It was just brotherhood and 2 guys running toward each other and hugging each other and saying, you're alive. And I've seen it twice, and both times I get a little bit choked up. And so that was my favorite scene. I did like the scene where, and I thought it was really funny where, I think it was Rey says, or no, it was Finn that says, weren't you a general in the rebellion? And Chewie in the background kind of shrugs his shoulder. Like, yeah.
That was, since I gave Corey a hard time, you had 3,000 words instead of 300.
Yeah, but he nailed some great stuff because, if there is injustice in the world, there will be a Poe Finn, cop buddy movie.
Oh, yeah. Riggs and Murtaugh.
There you go.
Chewbacca was the unsung supporting actor of the year.
Yeah.
It's, with his little grunts every now and then. So.
The chemistry between those two was incredible. I mean, every scene with those two in there, the vibe they gave off was absolutely phenomenal. Absolutely. All right. Who's up next? We've got Luke. You're up. Yeah, Luke, you're up.
All right. So, yeah, the negative parts I already kind of talked about was just the rehash plot, which at the end of the day, I don't really care. It was a great movie. I loved it. But just the droid on the desert planet, and then there's the kid with the force powers, and it gets him. Then the Millennium Falcon gets involved, the whole thing. So, but favorite scene, it would have to be when they just land on Starkiller Base, and they're running up to that little building, and Han asked Finn, hey, what did you do? And he said sanitation. And he grabs him. He's like, then how do you know about this? He's like, well, we use the Force. And then he's like, that's not how the Force works. And I just thought that was hilarious. Mm-hmm. And then Chewie, when he grunts something, he's like, what, now you're cold? I don't know, just that whole scene, it just grabbed like the old Han, like his facial expressions, everything. And it was just wrapped it all up for me right there.
Yeah, everything with Han Solo is just, it's money. What can you say? Aaron, what about you?
Well, for me, my favorite scene by far involves Han and Chewie. It's during the battle there outside of what used to be Maz Kanata's bar, which isn't much of anything now that the First Order finished it. But they're standing there behind a pillar, and Han turns to Chewie, goes, "Can I borrow this?" Takes his bowcaster, blasts a stormtrooper, turns around, it's like, "I really like this thing." So I really love that part. I think I laughed more at that than any other part of the movie at that time. As for things that just I didn't quite care for, or not care for, but didn't really jump out at me. As for Rey's use of the Force, progressed dramatically through the movie, almost too quickly. Going from having random visions she didn't understand what they were, to being able to mind trick a stormtrooper or James Bond by now, then going through and holding her own against a trained dark side user. Really, that whole progression of how she grew so quickly bothered me, especially since, we're watching Rebels and we're seeing Ezra grow, and he's growing slowly but surely, but he is growing. To see her progress so quickly, so fast in that world just kind of irked me a little. But it's still, I love the movie.
Fair enough. Yeah. For me, the things I found the least favorite with, first and foremost, is Starkiller Base. I talked about this on the Trailer Council show we did with Bobby Roberts. And when I saw that and I saw the image of it on the poster, I thought, are you kidding? Not another Death Star. I had a lot of problems with that because in fact, I thought that whole end battle scene, besides the lightsaber duel, that was a lot of white noise. I didn't think there was much cost. I think when these planets are blowing up, you're talking about the annihilation of billions of people. Boom, 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 boom. And all you see is one reaction to it. I thought that was a missed opportunity as far as showing the value of cost, the value and the sanctity of human life. That I thought that was troubling. But this is an escape. This is a reality. It's a mythology. You're supposed to have hope. So I guess when you think about Alderaan blowing up, that was just a sneeze. When you talk about the emotional ramifications of that, my favorite scenes. It's a tie between the reveal of the Falcon. I thought that was beautifully well done. That ship is garbage. We'll go with that one. Thought that was wonderful. And then when Rey resists Kylo Ren on Starkiller Base, and she leans into him and gets information out of him, I love that scene, and I think that's why Rey's growth doesn't bother me, because she's like the living personification of the best of Luke, Han, and Leia. She's the BA female. She's a great pilot. She's got this incredible Jedi potential. And the fact that she is as strong as she is and she can rip the lightsaber from Kylo Ren, who's been working in the Force most likely for all of his life, shows how insanely powerful she is. We may, guys, be looking at the most powerful Jedi of all time. I mean, I have no inside information on that, but there's just something about her that speaks to me. And I think that's why I didn't have a problem with this stuff, because there's so much for backstory that we don't know, and so much for where she's going to go that we don't know. So that's how I made peace with that. So this was a wide variety. This is tricky because this is the most guests we've ever had on Coffee with Kenobi. We really kept the waiters and waitresses busy here at the Coffee with Kenobi studios, but it's been well worth it. I look forward to having all of you on again to talk about these things in much more detail, and I'm already getting ideas about who to come on for certain things. It's going to be a lot of fun. So let's just kind of go down the list. Matt, we'll start with you. Jeff already gave his info, but where can people reach out to you if they want to ask you a question or just say hello?
You can always find me on the Twitters. I am at Gorilla Scribe. And remember, that is spelled the way Gorilla Scribe should always be spelled properly. And that is, are you ready?
I know it.
GUERRILLASCRIBE. You can also find me at coffeewithkenobi.com, where I will scribble about Marvel Star Wars comics. And then you can listen to me with Jeff McGee on Comics with Kenobi every couple of weeks or so. And I'm also on Comic Book Noob, which is part of the Assembly of Geeks offering of podcasts.
Wonderful. Randy and Luke, what about you two?
Well, you can reach us. Go ahead, Luke. You're the guy that does that. You do that.
Wake up, Luke.
Well, yeah. So you can reach us at Legends Library, one word, on Twitter, or Legends Library Podcast on Facebook. And of course, you can always email us at Coffee with Kenobi, and we'd love to hear from you.
Very good. Aaron, what about you?
Well, the best way to get a hold of me is either on Twitter at TAHarris121079, or of course via email, aharris@coffeewithkenobi.com. And just look forward to more Rebels reactions coming up.
And listen, we've said this so many times, but the fact that we have all of you together, Corey and I appreciate so much what all of you do on your amazing shows with Comics with Kenobi, Legends Library, Rebels Reactions. You all add so much credibility and class to our little podcasting family, and we can't thank you enough for your hard work, for your intelligence, for your passion, and for your elocution of your amazing ideas. So thank you guys so very much for being a part of Coffee with Kenobi.
I want to say also to you guys, 2015 has been a huge year, and I feel like it just all accumulated with this film, and it's so great to have you guys on and talk about it and kind of end the year at this. And it was a great way to do it. I think we'll probably be doing it again next year, and, as films are released and whatnot, I guess we'll have in a year and a half, but I want to say thanks so much for your hard work this year and putting out Star Wars stuff and getting that arranged on your respective shows, and just carrying on the Coffee with Kenobi banner and doing such a great job with that. So I thank you very much.
Well, no problem. It's an honor to be a part of it, and it's very cool. Thank you for. Thank you for thanking us.
Yeah, thank you.
Hey, look at it this way. We're going to be able to do something like this every year for pretty much until Disney gets tired of making Star Wars movies.
Or stops making money.
Tired of printing money.
It is definitely a beautiful thing. Yeah, I don't know why we couldn't do this for Rogue One and on and on and on. So, there's a lot of material. We've got a lot to look at and dissect, and just a pleasure to be in the trenches with all of you. So thank you again very much. Have a very happy new year, and we look forward to much, much more from all of your amazing shows.
Chewie, get us out of here!
From Topps comes the all-new digital card collecting app, free to download from iTunes or Google Play. Star Wars Card Trader.
For the first time ever, collect and trade everything from legendary 1977 Star Wars cards to new cards featuring exclusive content from Star Wars Episode 7, The Force Awakens.
All from the comfort of your mobile devices. Star Wars Card Trader.
These are the cards you're looking for.
Give the evacuation code signal.
This podcast is not endorsed by the Walt Disney Company or Lucasfilm Limited. It is intended for entertainment and informational purposes only. The official Star Wars website can be found at www.starwars.com. Star Wars, all names, sounds, and any other Star Wars-related items are registered trademarks and/or copyrights of Disney and their respective trademark and copyright holders. All original content of this podcast is the intellectual property of Coffee with Kenobi unless otherwise indicated.
This is the podcast you're looking for.
There's no one